So we're moving into my favorite time of year. Who knows what season it is?
Christmas!
It is Christmas season. Fall. Fall was the last one. We're in winter now. So I love Christmas. One of my favorite parts about it is what I'm going to teach you guys about tonight. It's Immanuel. It's God with us, and that is a promise that God gives to us. When's the last time you guys made a good pinky promise? Anybody recently?
Yes.
Anybody? Yesterday? What was it? What was it about? You know you had one yesterday, but you don't remember. Who had a really good one recently? Any good pinky promises? Tell me about it, Jackson. Oh, oh my goodness, that's the sweet. Can you say that louder so we can all hear that? Jackson, can you say that one more time really loud? Oh, he told his sister that he was always going to be her brother. That's the sweetest thing. She said, don't say it. Uh-oh. She's going to say it, everyone. She's not going to say it. Leah won't let her. Okay, can I tell you guys about the best pinky promise I've ever made? You guys want to hear it?
Yeah.
All right. It was about a month and a half ago. Anybody remember One Big Party? Was anybody at One Big Party? How big was that party? It was pretty big, right? All right, do you guys remember the 1,000 balloons that were in the hallway? There was 1,000. It was actually 957, but I mean, we can round up, right? So guess who got to blow up all the balloons? Me, and we had some of our leaders help. We had a lot of leaders. It was incredible. But for a while, after all our leaders left, we still had about 600 to go. So me, Sean, wave your hand. Everybody say hi, Sean. So Sean remembers this. He is all about this promise. It involves him too. So that night, we had to blow up 600 balloons. It was me, Sean, a guy Silas, and a guy Nate. Our friend Nate, we'll tell you about him. So we were blowing up balloons, and Nate blew up about 15 of them. He was a huge help, but he turned on the Yankees game, so we were good. Any baseball fans out there? Yes? Good, go Yankees, that's what I like to hear. So we're watching the Yankees game, it was the playoffs, and this guy fields the ball off the fence, launches it home, two-hopper right to the fence, or right to home plate. And we were like, dang, this dude's got a cannon. And Nate's like, dude, I can do that. And we're like, you know that's like 300 feet, 100, or there's, how many feet in a yard? 3. For those of you guys who are good at math. So that's like 100 yards. That's like a football field. He just threw it a football field on 2 bounces. You know that's like a lot, right? And it's like, dude, I got that. We were like, dude, when's the last time you played baseball? And he's like, oh, when I was in high school. Like, it hasn't been a while. I could still do that. We were like, oh, yeah, you want to bet? And he's like, yeah, I want to bet. So we made an awesome pinky promise, and here's what it was. If we lost, if he was able to throw 100 yards, me, Sean, and Silas had to shave half our face and walk around like that all day. I don't know if you guys have seen me without a beard yet. You probably haven't, because I haven't shaved in a good, we're not going to talk about it, since I had facial hair. So for about 5 or 6 years now. No shave November. I actually just shaved recently. However, if Nate was unable to throw 100 yards, he had to get a tattoo on his butt of all 3 of our names. So we were like, we're not letting you out of this. You sure, pinky promise? Okay, you pinky promise. It's locked in now. So we're like, okay, let's go over to the Bluffton High Fields. So we went over that night after we finished blowing up all 1,000 balloons. So we're all a little tired, but we were all pumped up. We had it on Snapchat and everything. And so we were like, okay, you get 3 throws, because that's how many baseballs Sean had in his car. So him and Sean were down at one end of the field, and me and Silas were down on the other end, standing on the 1-yard line. So first throw, Nate gets ready. And he launches it. We see it coming down the field. It's kind of dark, but we can see him throw. We can see the ball coming, and it drops at about the 40-yard line, bounces to the 35. And he's like, how far was it? So me and Silas run up. We're like, dude, there's no way. He's about to get a tattoo on his butt. And so we run up, and we check it on the 35-yard line. We're like, dude, it was 65 yards. There's no way you're getting this. So second throw, we see a flashlight, and we think it's Sean. Now, Sean, I don't know if you know this about him. He just signed to play college baseball. So this man has a cannon. He's conditioned. He is a college athlete to be. So we're thinking, okay, it looks like Sean's getting ready to throw. And Nate was trying to fool us a little bit. We see the ball coming, and we're standing on the 1-yard line, and we see it go over our heads and bounce out of the back of the end zone, went 113 yards. So me and Silas look at each other, and we're like, I'm not shaving my face. So Silas runs and gets the ball, and I walk up to where the other ball is. Silas walks up, drops it, kicks it, and we're like, you got it 67 yards, but nope, you didn't make it. And we walk back, we're like, we're keeping this to the grave. This never happened, okay? And so then third throw, we're like, all right, Nate, you're not getting close. There's no way you're getting it. So he rears back, and he throws, and this one only goes 60 yards. And we're like, you have to get a tattoo of our names on your butt. So that was the best pinky promise that I've ever made. My name is about to be on my friend's butt for the rest of his life. So there's my favorite promise of all time. What? We didn't lie. Let me make sure we get that clear. It was Sean who threw the second one. Let me make sure you know that part. So we didn't lie. He was trying to fool us, and that's what he gets for trying to lie to us. So he was unable to make it, and our names are going on our friend Nate forever. Friends for life, right? So tonight, we're talking about the promise that comes with the Christmas story. And it's hard for me to even think about Christmas without thinking of my favorite Christmas movie. So if you guys will turn your attention to the screens.
You've been done before, Charlie Brown, but this time you really did it. What a treat.
I guess you're right, Linus. I shouldn't have picked this little tree. Everything I do turns into a disaster. I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about. Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about?
Sure, Charlie Brown, I can tell you what Christmas is all about. Lights, please.
And there were in the same country shepherds, abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them. And the glory of the Lord shone round about them. And they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not. For behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. You shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host praising God, and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown.
So we know the Christmas story is all about the birth of who? It's about the birth of Jesus Christ, the Messiah, Immanuel. So you guys have heard the word Immanuel before, right? And what does it mean? It means God with us. Say it with me, God with us. Okay, you can repeat it this time. God with us. There we go. So Jesus coming into the world, coming into our hearts, and coming into our lives, it comes with a promise. I don't know if you guys have heard this before. This is something that I kind of learned for the first time this week, and God was starting to reveal it to me so that way I can pass it along to you guys. And it's one of the coolest things I've heard. And it is this, that God with us, it's a promise, it's not just a phrase. And tonight, I want us to see 3 promises that come along with Jesus' birth. So the first one is this: Jesus' birth is a promise of peace. So Linus just read out of Luke chapter 2, and Luke 2:14 says this: Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace amongst men whom he has pleased. It was and is. This isn't just a promise that was. This is a promise that still is to us today, and it's a promise between man and God. Let me ask you this: have you guys ever had to pay for the consequences of getting in trouble? You guys ever gotten in trouble? All you guys, it seems like. Any of you guys ever gotten grounded? Yeah, just about all. You are right now. Oh, that's not good. That's not a good thing. Let's not be proud about that. Anyway, my punishments when I was growing up, when I was your age, my punishments were pretty normal. I didn't really have any cruel and unusual punishments, but I figured somebody had to have. So I looked online and I found an article titled 30 People Share the Most Creative Punishment They Ever Received. And they were pretty good. But instead of reading you all 30, because that would take us 30 minutes, I picked out my top 5. So here's the first one. When we got in trouble, my father would threaten to cancel our life insurance when we were 5 or 6. We didn't know what that was, but we needed it. Number 2, my mom would threaten to sell me to the Russians if I misbehaved. I didn't even know what Russians were, but I was terrified of them. Number 3, I was an absolute bookworm. Anybody bookworms here? So this would apply to you guys. I was an absolute bookworm when I was a kid. Being sent to my room did nothing, as I'd spend most of my day curled up in there reading anyway. So my parents used to padlock my bookshelf and force me to go outside for punishment. I would have liked that. Number 4, I picked my nose as a kid. Anybody pick their nose unashamed? We got one. Picked my nose as a kid. Mom told me that my snot was actually my brain cells and that I was slowly destroying my brain. Terrified. That is a good mom right there. And the last one, number 5. I think I was 15. I got caught cutting classes. For the next week, my dad went to school with me. He drove me to school and then attended every class with me. He also ate lunch with me and my friends. Oh, did I mention that he wore his pajamas? He did. He didn't shave all week either. By the time Friday rolled around, he looked like a crazy homeless person. I never cut class again. Wouldn't you guys love that if your parents just came with you to school all the time? Didn't shave, just had a beard going and looked all crazy and homeless. So these are all cruel and unusual punishments. I'm glad my parents were pretty normal. Who has normal parents? Can we just give a shout out to normal parents who don't do these crazy things to us? Shout out to the normal parents. We got some in the back. Probably might be a little crazy, but we love them. So I'm also thankful that God gave us the ability to come to him to ask forgiveness when we sinned against him. Before Immanuel, before Jesus was born, we're celebrating Jesus' birth. Before Jesus ever came on to the earth, man was living under the law. Anybody not know what the law is? It's okay, I didn't really know for a long time. Okay, the law. The law was this. It was the 10 Commandments. It was a few other ordinances, festivals, and systems of worship. So basically, if man broke the law, they had to be forgiven by God. And the way that they would be forgiven by God is they would make a sacrifice to God. They would take an innocent, blameless animal. They would kill it, put it on the altar, burn it, and the incense would go up to heaven, and this would atone for their sins. This would have them forgiven of their sins. So that was the way that God provided to men forgiveness for their sins. And there was this separation between man and God, because remember, this was before Jesus. So Jesus came to bridge that gap. Jesus came into the world to be the sacrifice to God. He came to take the place of those sacrifices, and he came to be the sacrifice. Have you guys ever heard of Jesus being the Lamb of God? Anybody heard that phrase? This is what that means. He was the sacrificial lamb. He came so that he could be the sacrifice for us. So that way we can get to God. That way that gap is bridged by God, or by Jesus to God. So the birth of Jesus was the fulfillment of God's promise for peace between man and God. So the first promise is this. Say it with me. It's a promise of peace. It's a promise of peace. All right, second one, Jesus' birth is a promise of hope. So I don't know about you guys. I just want to tell you this about me. I am a huge fan of waiting. Anybody else like waiting? Anybody else think patience is like their spiritual gift? Like, no, none of you guys? I think for me, God gave me the spiritual gift of patience. I love it. It's so much fun waiting. Like, think about this, waiting to be there. Anybody taken a long road trip recently? I know the Kikers just got back from Japan. Isn't like the best part of your trip to Japan just waiting? No? I know, I used to love taking those trips up to New York, and we would sit in the car for 10 hours. It was incredible. We would just sit in the car and sit there for hours and hours and hours. I loved it, just waiting. How about waiting for dinner? Anyone with me? Anybody love waiting for dinner? Dude, Thanksgiving was recently, best part of Thanksgiving, sitting on the couch for that last 45 minutes right before everything's done. You guys know what I'm talking about. Where it's like, it's not quite time to eat, but you're not gonna go commit to anything else because it's almost time to eat. That 45, it's always 45 minutes, like exactly. And you just sit on the couch and you just wait. You know, you're starving, you're dying, you're ready to eat because you only eat one meal on Thanksgiving. I don't understand that. But you're just waiting all day to eat. I love it. You guys with me? No? Maybe I'm the only one. What about, okay, here's my favorite one. How about waiting in line? Guys, you have so much time to just sit and think and reflect on life and do absolutely nothing. You guys don't like that? It's your favorite? It's so much fun. A few weeks ago, we took the seniors in high school up to Scarowinds, and everybody was there. It was like the opening night, and we went and sat in line for the Intimidator. Anybody ever been on the Intimidator? Pretty intimidating. It's very fun. The line was 2 hours. It was incredible. So we got to stand there like this. I mean, sometimes you change it around. Sometimes you sit up on that pole thing. You know, you experience all the different like sitting positions. You know, you just get to try it all out because you're waiting. It's great. At one point, I was waiting so long that I forgot what we were doing there. Anybody ever wait that long? Like you're standing there and you just start zoning for a little while. You kind of almost fall asleep in your spot. And the person in front of you's moved, but you're just stuck like this. And they're like, guys behind you, they're not wanting to say hey because they don't really know you, but they're just kind of pushing you forward. Anybody been there? That's what happened. It was incredible. I actually forgot what I was in line for the longest time. You know, because they're so long. And eventually we got up to the front and I remembered it was to go 100 miles per hour on this thing for 3 minutes. Everybody was screaming. It was great. But the waiting, that's what got me. Loved it. So Jesus' birth was this promise of hope. It was a promise to end all the waiting. Remember during the Golden Thread series, we said that the Old Testament is all about God pointing us forward, saying he's coming, he's coming, he's coming. You guys remember that? Golden Thread series, he's coming. But now, right here, this is the time where it was, he's here. Now, the world, the followers of God, or the followers of God in the world, they were waiting and they were waiting and they were waiting. And right before Jesus came, you guys know there's like the Old Testament, there's a New Testament, right? New Testament's when Jesus came. Right there in the middle, there's a gap of 400 years. Do you guys know that? Between Malachi, the last book in the Old Testament, the Italian prophet Malachi, and right between him and Matthew, there's 400 years of silence where God didn't speak to his people. God was quiet. But then right after that quietness came the Messiah, came Jesus. So I hope you guys know that I was not serious about waiting. Waiting is the worst, okay? That was hard for me to even pretend. Waiting is terrible. The best part about the long road trip is being there. The best part about Thanksgiving dinner is eating Thanksgiving dinner. The best part about waiting in line for a roller coaster is getting on the roller coaster. I mean, I know you guys were frustrated with me when I was talking about waiting. I was frustrated with myself because I hate waiting. I hated waiting to get to that point. Right, same. So Jesus was the end to the waiting. Jesus was the long fulfilled promise of God, where for the longest time it was he's coming, he's coming, he's coming, but now it was he's here, he's here, he's here. The God of the universe is here to bring peace, to bring hope, and to show that he has not forgotten us, but that he still has this incredible plan for us. You know, it had to have been hard in that 400 years, just sitting there waiting, thinking, okay, God's not talking to us. God hasn't given us any new prophecies. He hasn't given us any prophets. He hasn't given us any people. It must have felt like God had forgotten about them, right? Jesus was a promise of hope, where God was saying, no, I have not forgotten about you. In fact, here is everything you've been waiting for. So God fulfills his promise of hope through the birth of Jesus Christ. So the first promise was what? It was a promise of peace. Say it with me. It was a promise of peace. Second one, Jesus' birth is a promise of hope. That's right. One more time. Promise of hope. So we got peace and we got peace and okay. Third one, Jesus' birth is a promise of love. So have you guys met Stephen and Amanda Bell? Anybody know them? They're incredible. I got to live with them for about a week. There's a fun story behind that. You can ask me a different time. It doesn't really apply. However, I was living with them for a week. It was so much fun. And I got to see this incredible picture of what marriage looks like and what love looks like. So me and Stephen were curled up on the couch, and not together. He was over there. It was like one of those L couches. You know, he was leaning this way. I was going this way. There was some space, don't worry. But we were watching the greatest movie of all time, Despicable Me 3. Right? I was talking about it today, and Hannah was like, I think you've been talking about that movie for as long as I've known you. And I was like, yep, July 4th, I was going to go by myself to see it, but then you guys invited me to go see the fireworks. But anyway, finally got to see it 5 months later, something like that. Me and Steven were watching that movie. Incredible if you haven't seen it. So good. And Steven was sitting there, and he's like, hey, Amanda, can you get me a blanket? So Amanda, you know, she's doing the dishes from dinner, and she's like, sure. So she goes, gets him a blanket, goes over, puts it on him like a great wife. A few minutes later, we're watching the movie. Steven's like, hey, Amanda, can you get me a piece of pie? And we had that left over from Thanksgiving. It was really good. And Amanda's like, yeah, sure. So not only does she get him the pie, she puts it on the plate all nice, gets him a nice fork and a knife and a napkin. And she's like, here you go. I was like, That's so sweet. I wish I wanted some pie, but I don't want pie right now. And it was so nice. Then a few minutes after that, she came over and she was watching the movie with us, and she was sitting at the end of Stephen's feet. And Stephen's like, hey, Amanda, can you take my socks off? And she goes, Stephen Bell, no, I will not take your socks off. It was a wonderful picture of love. So incredible. Can't wait to be married someday. So I died laughing, but it was such a cool picture. Yeah, round of applause for Amanda. Saying no to the socks, but saying yes to everything else. So it was such a cool picture of love. Love is sacrificial. Love says, I can be made low, I can serve you. Love says, I just want to do whatever I can to be with the people that I love. And that's exactly what God was doing when he sent Jesus. God said, I'm going to set aside my godliness. I'm going to put on flesh. And not only am I going to put on flesh, I could come as a king. I'm going to come as a baby. I'm going to come as a servant. And I'm going to do it in the lowliest of ways. And eventually, I'm going to die for these people so that they can be with me forever. The King of Kings and the Lord of Lords made a promise to you and to me by coming to this earth. And I don't want us to miss this. This Christmas, we have a chance to understand this season better than we have any other time in the past. You guys are in middle school. Maybe in the past, in elementary school or just in years past, you didn't really understand this holiday. You knew that Jesus was the reason for the season, but maybe you didn't know that it was more than just a cool phrase. Maybe you didn't know that Jesus was a long-fulfilled promise, and that wasn't just a promise for the people back in the day, that he's a promise for you right now and today. So it's so easy for us to look at Jesus in the manger. It's so easy for us to look at this birth of Jesus as a moment in history, in the same way that we kind of do like 4th of July, like I was talking about. Like it's this cool moment in our nation's history, and we get to celebrate it for a day, but it's just that. It's a moment in history. Guys, this birth of Jesus wasn't just a moment in history. The birth of Jesus was so much more than that. It was a moment. It was more than a moment in history. It was more than a holiday that we celebrate. It was more than a religious tradition. When we read Matthew 1, we learn that Immanuel means God with us. And here's what I think we need to understand. If you guys don't get anything else from tonight, here's what I want you to understand. This is it right here. Give me your attention for just 1 minute. And if the band will come on up when they get a chance. Immanuel, it means what?
God with us.
Say it one more time.
God with us.
God with who?
Us.
Who's us?
We.
It's me and it's you, right? It's so easy when we read this scripture to think this, that God with us meant God with Mary. It meant God with Joseph, or maybe it meant God with the wise men, or God with the shepherds, or even God with the animals that were there grazing in the field. But sometimes we forget that means God with us. We hear the story and we think Jesus was there. Jesus was in Bethlehem. Jesus was in Israel. But let me remind you that this was an intro to Jesus. This was Jesus coming into the world, and now he's here with us right now. Right in this moment, Jesus is here with us. This was the birth of Jesus. This was the introduction to Jesus being here, present in this room right now with us today. Guys, it's not a back then thing. It's a today thing. And it's an everyday thing. Because Jesus was with us then, as soon as he came onto the scene, he's with us now, and he's going to be with us forevermore if we're believers. Guys, some of you guys need to hear that. Some of you guys are thinking, like, great, this whole Jesus thing, this whole God thing, it's ancient history. It doesn't matter. It was all in the past. But let me tell you guys today, it's a today thing. It's a right now thing. So as we enter this Christmas season, I don't want you guys thinking like, great, we're going to celebrate this moment in history. We're going to celebrate something that's so of the past. We're going to celebrate this thing that I read about. Guys, this is your everyday life. This is Jesus stepping into your everyday life and captivating your heart. Guys, if Jesus never came down to live with us, I don't know where we'd all be, but it wouldn't be good. So guys, as we enter this Christmas season, I want us to know that Jesus is the reason for this season, but I want us to know why. And the why is that we needed him. And because God loved us, he sent his son Jesus. So that's all I got for you guys today. Let's pray. Father, thank you for coming down. It's as simple as that, God. Thank you for making a way for us with your son, Jesus, Lord. Jesus, thank you for stepping down off your throne in heaven. Thank you for putting on flesh. Thank you for coming down in the most servanthood way, God, in the way of a baby in a manger. Lord, as we step into this Christmas season, Lord, may it not be another holiday. May we not get captivated by presents and toys and what we can get. Lord, may this be a season that we can point people to you, where we can find those people who don't understand what this is about, what this whole Christian thing about, what this whole Jesus thing is about. Maybe they've seen that Jesus is the reason for the season, but they don't understand it. Lord, may we be people who not only understand it, but share it, God. Use us in this time. Use us in this season, God, to bring people to you, to point people to you, God. We love you, and we thank you in this lift your name. Amen.